It's really cool how he like got really good at multiple things.
He got to be amazing at all of them.
Exactly.
When he's young, like he looked good, but he didn't look like someone you would pick out of a crowd and be like, that guy's going to make it way above everybody else.
He was super inquisitive.
He was doing some bodybuilding. He did pretty well. Comes to the U.S. and they're like, you're fat. And it's just an interesting thing to kind of think about, like what made Arnold Arnold. And maybe because of the way that he had to figure out how to get himself to this country, maybe he just made him a notch more competitive than what maybe some of the other guys were.
I think it was supposed to be like, I will be back or something, and he just blurred out, I'll be back, and then boom. Everyone always says that like bodybuilders in the 70s and 80s were just better, they look different.
Those guys are athletic looking.
Bodybuilders today are not, it's not the same. I think it should be called something different than bodybuilding. It's just like, I think it should just literally be called mass monsters.
If you know what it takes to be successful, then I think like that can end up making a great leader. He always seemed to be like a step ahead, right? He was always a step ahead in bodybuilding somehow. But if you have that dedication to your food and you have that dedication to come in that kind of shape every single year and to be the best in the world at something, I don't really know why. I don't know who would be more qualified. So we got some new cameras here, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not too bad. Right?
Well, there's an adjustment period, but I'm
Let
working
us
on
know
it.
how you guys like how these cameras look, how crisp they are, because we're looking crispy.
Do we look better?
I think we all
think
look
so.
pretty crispy.
How do we look?
I think
Is it working?
Good.
You look younger.
See?
Yeah.
There you go. All we needed was some more filters.
Makes your hair more shine.
Filters and growth hormone.
And AI. Yeah. Alrighty. What you guys got today?
I really liked that Arnold documentary a lot. I know Nsima saw it too.
It was really good.
And I think our boy Andrew, he's got a little kid running around the house all crazy. He's still learning jujitsu. And Andrew ain't got time for that shit. So I think we should just fill him in.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I want to watch it. I just can't.
No, y'all got to watch it. I think there's 3 episodes. The first one is him as an athlete. The second one's him as an actor, and the third one dives into him as a politician. And it's really cool how he like got really good at multiple things.
He got to be amazing at all of them.
Exactly.
And yeah, it was. I think sometimes when you hear of a story of someone like that, you just kind of think, man, they must have always had it, you know. And he did have attributes when he was young. He did fall in love with bodybuilding at a young age. He saw, I think he saw like some bodybuilding magazines, and there was a particular, I can't remember the
Reg
athletes.
Park.
Reg Park, there you go.
Yeah.
Reg Park was a hero of his, bodybuilder, and he followed that guy's career and modeled himself after that in the beginning. But when he's young, like, and he's lifting, he looks like a normal teenage kid that starts out lifting. He wasn't fat. He wasn't like overly muscular. He looked good, but he didn't look like someone you would pick out of a crowd and be like, that guy's going to make it way above everybody else. Then a couple years later, of course, as he matured and as he started lifting more, he started turning into a mutant. But it seemed like everything he did, it took a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of patience.
Do you guys think it's easier to start lifting alone or with people? Because in the doc, that's one thing that was pretty cool. Like, there's apparently an athletic club or whatever. I forgot how they pronounce it, but there's an athletic club that he started training with. So he started training with another group of people. And that's one thing that is pretty, I think, missed for some people when it comes to exercise in the gym. Because sometimes the gym is just a solo effort. You put on your headphones and you go and it's you versus you. But it's different when you got training partners.
It seemed like kind of where he grew up. It seemed like it was pretty like regimented. You know, it seemed like a lot of things were really regimented and kind of strict. And so lifting must have felt like a good outlet. And then especially because he got to do it with other people.
Yeah.
And there's probably a good mix of people. Like I remember one of the coolest things about going to the gym for me, and what's kind of cool to seeing my son come here and seeing my nephew come here and stuff, is that there's older people here too. So, you know, if you're 15 or 14 or however old Arnold was when he started, there might be a guy in there that's 30-something that can kind of tell you like, oh, you know, when I started, I was actually smaller than you and I was lifting less and this is how I got stronger and this is a good exercise. And you get people to kind of show you the ropes, but you also learn just how and especially back in those days, like it was all men. So I'm sure it's probably a great way to kind of get some education and learn how to be a man as well.
Yeah, looking back,
Learn how to be manly.
like for me, you know, I was very timid, so I didn't like working out with other people. But now that I understand everything that you can gain from just literally just being around somebody that's been in the game longer, you know, I wish I could have, you know, been more open to that. Because I did meet a couple guys in the gym, and like we talked, and we'd see, because it was like the morning crew, you know, who's going to be there, and you know, this guy's going to always be benching and not doing anything with his legs because he messed up his knee in high school or whatever it was, you know, those types of gym goers and stuff. But like, I wish I did reach out and like just kind of communicate and go into the gym without the headphones, because I did that every single time because I just wanted to do my thing. And if somebody else was there on the machine or the bench that I wanted, I'd be like all upset and, you know, kind of ruin my day. But now it's like, damn, that would have been a cool opportunity to just learn from somebody.
Yeah, I think it's got to be kind of hard to try to figure it out by yourself. Going to a gym where there's people and then tuning other people out with headphones is one thing, but like going to your basement and being 14 and just like looking at pictures from a magazine or something and then being like, okay, I'm going to try those curls. I'm going to try this one right here. Like, all that kind of hurts or that kind of works. Like that'd be a lot harder. It'd be a lot more inspiring and motivating to see other people, especially, I mean, how blown away are you when you're a kid and you go to play soccer with somebody, or you throw a football to somebody and that person can throw it like twice as far as you, or kick the ball twice as hard as you. You're like, oh, that person's my hero. I wanted to. How did that guy do that? Does he have superpowers? You know, and it's just because he's like 3 years older than you or whatever, right?
But dude, there's a mindset thing there, because a theme throughout the doc, specifically like with Arnold, is that he was super inquisitive. There's a lot of things that he didn't understand, but he always found a way to get that information. I think one of the more even really cool things about it is that this is the age before the internet. You know, like this was before you could just open up your smartphone and be like, okay, what program can I do to gain some muscle? Or what do I need to do to start acting? You know what I mean? It's like you have to go and find people and figure out a way where they're willing to talk to you and give you the information you're looking for to get better. And he did that with, again, bodybuilding. He did that with acting, because we saw he was a shit actor. He mentioned that. Shitty actor. Learned, dove into like what he was good at in his specific niche.
Right.
And became one of the best action stars of the 80s. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
Just saw him time and time again, like just chase down what he thought was going to be the absolute best for him, like over and over again. He was doing some bodybuilding. He did pretty well. Everybody was sweating him. It was like, you're awesome. You're this, you're that. Comes to the U.S. and they're like, you're fat.
Yeah.
Just in not so many words, they basically just say you're fat.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, by any means, he wasn't fat, but like, you know, bodybuilding has some crazy standards. And if someone was to go up on stage at a professional bodybuilding show and they were like 10% body fat, people would be like, "Moo, like get off the fucking stage, you cow," because like he would look fat in comparison to everybody else. Because these guys are rolling around with, you know, veins, you know, head to toe.
I think Frank Zane said he was puffy.
Yeah. Frank Zane. Yeah, and I think Frank Zane was like winning Olympias at the time, and Frank Zane had those really kind of deeply etched abs, and was kind of known for being like one of the leaner guys, because there were some other guys that were bigger back then. But yeah, Arnold, he just dove into it each time rather than like being like, oh shit, like this is too hard or this is too difficult. He's like, I'm just gonna adapt to this culture. Like, what does that mean? I'm too fat. How do I change that? Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to train differently? Something I found really interesting in the documentary was later on in the documentary when he's like starts to kind of become Arnold. It's really neat to watch the other guys look at him in the gym and watch him, because it seems like they knew that he was just different. And I don't know like what the mindset was behind the filming of like Pumping Iron and stuff. But those guys in the background that are watching him pose and stuff, those guys know that they're not Arnold. And Arnold knows that those guys know that they're not him either. And he knows that they can't be on his level. They know they can't be on his level. It's like there's kind of some sort of weird understanding. And they're just all kind of watching him, but they're all like supportive of him pretty much. At least it seems like that from, you know, some of the footage in the movie. He's just built like totally different than everybody. So you're like, all those guys are training hard. All those guys are using similar stuff. A lot of those guys taught Arnold a lot of things. And it's just an interesting thing to kind of think about, like what made Arnold Arnold? Like, is it harder work? Is it genetics? But it's just that, giant combination of things. And maybe because of the way that he had to figure out how to get himself to this country and the way he had to kind of fight for that to be able to do all those things, maybe he just made him a notch more competitive than what maybe some of the other guys were.
Coming here, not speaking the best English, having a interesting accent, right? These are a lot of things.
A name that people can't pronounce.
Yeah. Or we'll just fucking butcher. Exactly. There's a lot. There's a lot like that. There's a lot of work that you have to do that other people don't necessarily need to do. A lot of hurdles that you need to get over that people don't. But a cool thing too is that, like, for example, his accent, when it came to acting, right? There were a lot of people who are like, there's no way that you can. And even in some of his earlier stuff, it was pretty bad. But he turned that accent and he turned like all of those things into a strength for him. So he started, like, his lines were very succinct and were very catchy. And the whole story behind the was it the I'll be back in Terminator? That was really dope. I think it was supposed to be like I will be back or something, and he just blurred out I'll be back, and then boom, that ended up being a catchphrase for decades to come.
See if you can try to find that clip, Andrew. It's kind of amazing. I believe, like, if I'm remembering it correctly, he's got the shades on. He just kind of like looks kind of over the counter and like does a little glance, and then he says it, and then he just goes right through the window. But I mean, it's interesting. Like, you don't know what these things are that are going to make someone epic. And can you imagine reading the script for Terminator? Like, now it kind of seems cool. Like, now it would seem cool if you read the script for Terminator. You'd be like, oh yeah, it's kind of that kind of thing's happening all the time. There's, there's AI and there's things being fully realized all the time. But back then, this whole idea of this Terminator thing the whole thing must have seemed kind of corny. But he took the role and he fucking crushed it.
This is from the first one. I remember it from the second, but the first one is okay.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is the big one.
I'll be back.
The music, the haircut, the glasses, the leather jacket. This is action movies right here in the 80s.
Make them like they used to.
I have a question for both of you guys. Exactly. Okay, Andrew.
See?
I'm thankful that you said that. Let me. What are your guys' thoughts? And everyone that's listening, chime in and let us know, why do you guys think that everyone always says they were better in the 70s and 80s? Like, it's the same type of vibe as like, they don't make them like they used to.
They don't.
Everyone always says that, like, bodybuilders in the 70s and 80s were just better. They look different. They're not bigger. They're not as lean. But even I don't know necessarily how to describe why those guys look better.
Yeah.
There's just like, because when you look at, okay, Chris Bumstead's great and he's super lean, super shredded. I don't want to use him as an example. And I don't even want to use the bodybuilders as an example, because bodybuilders now look like fucking fridges. Sorry, they look like walking fridges. And the only reason why their waist is small is because everything is so gargantuan, but their waists usually aren't even small.
Right.
It's like they don't look as good.
Their waist
Why?
could be 36 to 40 inches and you wouldn't know, because their chest and back and shoulders and arms are so big. You got no idea what's going on anymore.
Right? It's kind of, I'm sorry, it's kind of nasty. Normal bodybuilding. Classic physique is like, I think Classic Physique has done a much better job. But even some of those classic guys, I don't know if it's just the cameras, or maybe we just we're looking at the past as always being better. Maybe that's just a thing.
I think bodybuilders, especially like in that documentary, and we'll talk about it more, like Arnold coming off of gear and stuff like that. Like, there's definitely some really interesting and unique shots of him in the documentary. So I recommend it to everybody to check it out. But it's almost like those guys are athletic looking in some way. And on top of athletic looking, it's like, they just fucked around with weights a little bit more than some other guys. Like, they just like to throw around the iron a little bit more than everybody else. Maybe they like to go a little heavier. And there's some real mutants back then too. Like Sergio Olivier, like, he looked fucking insane. I mean, there's some of these guys they were insane. Like, don't make any mistake about it. Some of these guys still had, 20 plus inch arms. I mean, they looked insane, and their body weight wasn't too crazy. So when someone has 20 plus inch arms, but they weigh like 230 or 240, like, that is completely, abnormal. But I think a lot of these guys could still move. A lot of these guys could still do a lot of awesome things.
Look at that waist, man. Like,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
The myth,
right? Even like even Franco Colombo, right? Franco, oh that's an epic, that's a legendary photo, dude.
Yeah, so you can pull that up a little bigger.
Sick.
That is a legendary photo.
I think that's like a I mean, again, like he's so freaking big. It's just it's insane.
I love that picture.
But even a downsized version of that, I think everyone could agree. You're like, this looks like a powerful person.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a bodybuilder, you're like, how does that guy get in and out of the car? Can that guy wipe his ass? Like, like what's that guy? Like, how does that guy even eat? Like, can he do this maneuver here? Can he like shovel food to his face?
We don't call that a walk. That's a wobble.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And no, like, okay. And I know making jokes. I know those guys work hard as fuck. I get it. And it takes something different to be that big. It's genetics. It's some crazy hard work. You're constantly doing everything you can, but it just doesn't look as good. And I think part of the thing is, like you said, I think the guys of the 70s, they still looked maybe athletic. They still looked like they could do things along with just being big.
It's like maybe they did gymnastics for a long time, then they stopped doing that and they just wanted to get a little bigger.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Something like that, right?
Right?
It looks more reasonable. It looks more aesthetic. I think a lot of the bodybuilders of today would even agree.
Yeah.
I think even like a Jay Cutler or something would be like, yeah, man, like these other guys, they kind of look better. I think there are people that do like the guys that are just getting like really, really big. But I don't know. I think some of our strength sports and some bodybuilding and stuff kind of went sideways in a way. And I actually wish that in strongman, I wish that they made some of the competition design. I wish they made it a little different, so that the athletes didn't have to be so enormous. Like years ago, you were seeing guys being like 450, 500 pounds, and it's just not healthy. Not that these sports, like health is the first thing in mind, but I do think these sports would be more popular if you had leaner, more athletic athletes doing them. And so if the weights that they were using in strongman weren't so completely astronomical, and if they had to carry stuff a further distance, it would create a different style of athlete, much like what you've seen with what CrossFit has done. CrossFit has athletes that people are like, wow, that looks really good. I would like to be built like Rich Froning. I'd like to be built like that person. It's more, even though it's not obtainable for anybody to be built like those guys, I think people are like, well, he weighs 205, 210. I could figure that out. You know, if I worked out for a while, I could figure that out. But they're still in amazing shape.
Do you guys think it's the like kind of like oversaturation almost? It's a weird analogy, but I don't know if you guys ever watched The Hangover, and if you ever watched the second Hangover. Everyone was like, "Oh, the second Hangover sucked. It's so much worse than the first one." But if we never had the first one and you never ever seen it, the second one would have been pretty damn good. But the problem is we have the first one, therefore the second one is now dog shit.
Did they have 2 or 3 hangovers?
I think they had 3.
Which one was Tyson in?
The first one.
Oh, he was in the first one?
Yeah.
I don't even remember the second one then, I guess.
Honestly, I can't think of it. I just know the third one, I think they went to Bangkok, or maybe that was the second one. What I'm getting at is we have these awesome physiques, and now it's like, oh, here's like the iPhone 13 or whatever was a dope iPhone, and then the 14 came out and you're like, okay, this is pretty good too. Like, you know, it wasn't like this, oh my God, this is incredible. It was like, oh yeah, cool, we got 2 more pixels. But if you go back to the fucking iPhone 4 and then you got the 14, your head would explode. But because we just are gradually getting a little bit better, but also getting them every freaking day. And then now with bodybuilders, it's like every year they're getting a little bit bigger. But we have so many of them. It's like, are they as great? It's just, we've seen this movie before. Therefore, we're like, the first one was better. The first one is my favorite one, not this one.
I think the only bodybuilders to really compare 70s guys to are classic physique guys, because bodybuilders today are not, it's not the same. Like I think it should be called something different than bodybuilding. It's just like
Fair.
I think it should just literally be called mass monsters. That's the thing that makes the most sense. People call them mass monsters because they are mass monsters, right? And classic physique still has the goal of trying to keep a flow to the body that looks amazing and looks good, but you're still, you know, wide shoulders, small waist. You're not going to have a blocky waist as a good classic physique guy, and wide legs. So
Let's see if we can bring up maybe some clips of like last year's Mr. Olympia, like the finals or something, kind of give people an idea of what we're talking about here versus, you know, some of these guys like in the 80s. Again, I think that most people would agree that the physiques that the guys had in the 80s were just more like desirable. You know, you just look at like those legs and those shoulders, and it's amazing what that guy's built. I mean, that's
big Ramy.
That's crazy, but it seems like there's maybe some sort of upward limit of how much muscle the human body should be able to hold in accordance to like its height, I guess. And it just can start to look weird. Like Arnold had really cool proportions.
Yeah.
Arnold had, you know, Arnold kind of had it all in some ways. He had some height to him, which is good. But Arnold had really amazing arms and a really amazing chest. And I think that's what stands out when he would pose, and his waist was kept small. I think that people coming off of their performance-enhancing drugs is a big deal. People coming off of steroids is a big deal. And there's shot after shot of Arnold, and there's commentary from him saying, like, I would use stuff for like 4 months, 5 months. And I believe him. Again, when you watch the video and you see some of the shots that they show, he looks way different.
He looks kind of normal sometimes.
He looks kind of normal. He looks like he might even go down to like 210 pounds or something. Like, he doesn't look like the same Arnold. He still is gorgeous, handsome man that he is, but he's just not nearly as thick and not nearly as muscular.
Dude.
Nick Walker, right?
Yeah. Holy shit. Did they address the diet at all in the movie?
They talked a little bit about it, but it was you know, diet and supplements and stuff. It was just like pretty simple. Like people just they stuck to their like meat and potatoes and vegetables. I think some of the people started to figure out that you could like lower the carbohydrates. You could you know, manipulate the fats and stuff. People started to kind of understand that. But I think back then, I think it was a little bit harder to just get such particular stuff. You know, nowadays it's like so easy to go to the store and like literally get whatever you want. And I think in those times, I think it was a little harder. So I believe that many of these guys were like dieting with like steak and eggs and like maybe, you know, some carbohydrates and stuff like that here and there, and whole milk. And I think that's another reason for the look being a little different. I don't think they were compromising as much. Like these guys, they'll compromise to no end nowadays because they have insulin and growth hormone and IGF-1 and a full cycle of steroids and just a whole litany of things that they can take to help them survive, you know, going through 1,200 calorie days and stuff like that. But I don't think Arnold did shit like that. I don't think those guys did that back then.
Yeah, no, I asked that because, you know, he mentioned recently about how he wished he could go back and not eat so much red meat when he was bodybuilding and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it just seemed like it was like more of an ad than truth.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, that was, I think he was supporting, you know, Arnold, he later became like political and stuff. And I think that was him supporting that Game Changer movie and stuff like that.
So you've gotten your labs done, whether it's 6 months ago or a year ago, and you want to know where things are at, but you don't want to get a full panel again. That's why I've partnered with Merrick Health, owned by Derek for More Plates, More Dates, and we have something called the Checkup Panel. This is an affordable panel with 55 different labs that'll allow you to see all those different biomarkers, and you can get this channel every month or every 2 months, whatever frequency you like, but it'll give you all the specific labs that you want to know so that you can make sure that you're moving in the right direction for your specific hormones. Andrew, how can they get their hands on it?
Yes, that's over at marekhealth.com/power project. That's MAREK health.com/power project. There you guys will see our checkout panel. Load that into your cart, and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off of that panel. Again, marekhealth.com/power project. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
There's one thing that I think was really sick. You know, he mentioned that his dad always said that he should you know, stay busy and be useful. And that's something that he himself mentioned so many times of like being useful. He said something around like along the lines of not getting depressed, or like you don't have any time for being depressed or depression if you always have something that you need to do. Right. So it's kind of the idea of like there is I think an importance in no matter what you're doing. And it's not that maybe you have to serve other people, but figuring out a way to be useful in some sense. Right? Have a purpose and be useful. Be either helping people. There's some people who love to volunteer and being useful for the community because of that. There's some people who, oddly enough, like they like working in service, like restaurants and stuff, because of the feeling that they can see from people who get good service. Like there's a good feeling when you know that you've been able to help someone and you've been useful to people. Right. So like that idea is, I think nowadays is a very important one because, you know, a lot of young guys find themselves like maybe getting down, depressed. But if you're, you know, getting your dopamine from video games and you don't really do much, you don't force yourself to go out there, it's not going to be surprising when you feel kind of shitty because you're not doing anything that brings you a level of purpose or allows you to actually be useful. So you're going to feel bad.
And everyone can find their own usefulness. I mean, you might have to start low. You know, there's a quote that I always liked, and it says, it's from Friedrich Nietzsche. He says, man will never truly find God because he's not willing to look low enough. Meaning like you're going to have to like dive down pretty low and serve people. And that's when you're going to be able to understand the world a little bit better, when you kind of dig deep and get down in there. And I think it's just an important trait to think about. So even if you're new at, I don't know, you're new at some workplace, and you can't keep up. You don't know how to make the documents that they want you to make. You don't know how to edit the thing that needs to get edited the right way. You can ask people, hey, I'm a little slow on some of this other stuff, but I really want to help. I want to make an impact here. How can I help? Josh Settlage, when he worked here, started out as an intern, and then we were just like forced to pay him and forced to pay him more as he worked here longer because he was a guy that every single time, every time he came in, every time he saw you, he greeted you. He said, do you need anything in particular today? Can I help with anything? Which that wasn't even necessarily his job to like, he wasn't like my assistant or anything, but he would ask you that, like, can I take something from you today to help you further? Because I appreciate the job that I have here. Yeah. And then every time he would leave, he would do the same thing. And then he made a hell of an impression on Eric, who works here now, because Eric does the same fucking thing. Like, damn, dude, like that's pretty impressive. And so everyone can really move the needle a lot more than they think. Yes. You don't have to be the guy that's like leading everybody into the charge and all this stuff. You can become that at some other point, but you can be useful and find your purpose through vicariously by assisting and helping other people around you. And you'll probably need a couple years. I know, I just think as a man, I think you need like a 4 or 5 or 6 year time period where you just kind of stumble into yourself. And at that time, that's the most important time, to keep the ball up in the air, not let it hit the ground, and to be able to keep your chin up and to be able to kind of make something of yourself. And you can get momentum at that point. That's when you can start to feel better, and you can start to get into, you know, training of some sort or pushing yourself a little harder on certain things. And that's when you can really push.
Yeah, so this is the classic physique finals now.
Yeah, this is definitely much different. We also have like, you know, these guys are, you know, they got like, they figure out the lighting, and they get like insanely tan. And so the sport like has changed. I mean, Arnold, I don't even know, like, I don't think all those guys even like shaved everything and all that shit back then. I think they threw a little oil on and got up on stage, you know? But yeah, this is a way different look.
There's a better look. That's just my opinion, but this is just a way fucking better look. It's
well, they also look a lot leaner. too. I mean, I don't even know how to compare it like body fat wise because it'd be hard to tell. The other guys have so much muscle, but yeah, this is
his lats just look like straight up balloons.
well, and if you saw this guy, 5 weeks before the show or 5 weeks after the show,
Oh, he'd look huge.
yeah, he would he would look extremely impressive, and he wouldn't look. For some people that are like, he's still got a lot of veins and stuff. Like some of that will go away a little bit when they're not on the actual stage itself.
Did he just wink?
He
Don't make
might
me
have.
uncomfortable, bro. Come on now. Oh man.
Yeah, I think the documentary, it also, like I was saying earlier, it revealed a lot of photos of Arnold when he was young, where I never saw some of those pictures before. I only saw like people would talk about Arnold like winning Mr. Universe at like 19 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was clearly after he already got on some stuff. I believe that was just, I think that steroids back then were just in a totally different, I don't think they were, first of all, he grew up in a different country, but secondly, I think it was like part of bodybuilding. And to my understanding, there was articles where in like Muscle and Fitness and stuff like that, I believe it was called like Muscle and Power, not Muscle and Fitness. But in those magazines back then, it would say like the guy, had a glass of milk in the morning, ate 3 eggs, had a piece of toast with it. And it would just list out like what the guy ate. And it said he took like, they used to take these like liver tablets and like all this other stuff.
Yeah.
All these supplements, these multivitamins. And then it would just say 10 milligrams of Dianabol. Like it would just be it'd be in the magazines and stuff like that. So I think it was years ago, it was like, it wasn't as frowned upon because it wasn't until like the 90s where in the US it became a Scheduled III drug.
Yeah. Looking at Chris Bumpson right here, like he's
Turning it into a whole different sport altogether once again.
but like his upper body, like he has kind of like that. Arnold's upper body was just something else. There's just like this weird like length through the shoulders, thickness, and Bumpson has that same shit, but he also has like massive legs. Yeah, they look fucking amazing. They can be compared to those 70s guys. I think that makes sense. But the guys in the bodybuilding category, the mass monster category, they're very different. Like, that's fucking crazy, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane.
Yeah, I think, a couple things with Arnold, when he got into the movie scene, and, again, I think you just think these things come so easy to some people. You're like, he must have always been, because you see him in Pumping Iron. Pumping Iron seems totally comfortable in front of the camera. And the way that he talks and everything, and the way he jokes around and messes with people, you're like, he's destined to be a star.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case at all. They show him acting in movies, and they show him really having a hard time and flopping. It took him a long time. He had to pull back. He had to like stop acting a little bit and work on going to acting classes. And he had to work on his speech and communication and all that stuff. And he also had to figure out a way, not only to listen to people around him, but also to listen to his own intuition. They wanted to call him Arnold Strong. He's in some movies as Arnold Strong instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger. They dubbed his voiceover before, with this kind of like almost robotic type voice. Like they've done all kinds of stuff. And he had to figure out for himself the importance of him keeping his own touch, his own spin on what he knew would eventually would work. And it's hard to do that when you're not good at something. So he wasn't good at it at first, but as he worked on it, he built more confidence. And as he built more confidence, he got himself into better spots. And I think, I'm not sure if it was Terminator or which movie it was that was like
Conan.
Conan. There you go. Conan ended up being a big breakout movie for him.
The cool thing though is like there's a constant theme because somebody that's able to do like an amazing thing in their life, that's really fucking cool. But someone who's able to go into very different realms, because bodybuilding is a very different thing than acting. And some people would say that acting isn't that different from being a politician, but like it is a very like it's still very different. It has a lot of different dynamics.
Though.
There's some good carryover. But he did talk a lot about having a very clear vision of the things that he wanted to do and always making sure to keep that in mind. And transitioning to something, not being very good in it, but knowing this is where I'd like to be in this, having a vision of that and heading towards that like continuously, despite people saying this is not your thing. Bodybuilders can't be actors. Actors can't be politicians, but having the belief in yourself, number one, but also having that strong belief that you have the ability to learn the skills needed to be good at this thing. Because that's, I think one thing is that, you know, when trying a new thing, some people think that like, oh, if I'm not good at this initially, or if it's not clicking for me initially, this thing is just not for me. Rather than just continuing to try and learn and get better, because that's a process with all of it. Because you can become very good, if not great, at many things if you actually give yourself the chance. But many quit before they've had the time to become any good.
I think many people forget how hard it is to pick up something. Like when you're a kid, you know, you might learn how to play baseball at like 6, and then you're, you know, I don't know, you're like 15 or something, and someone's like, how long have you been playing baseball for? And many years have already passed, and you've been playing it for a long time, so everything seems like second nature. So when you start stuff when you're older, like Andrew starting jiu-jitsu, or me starting running, and Seema years ago starting jiu-jitsu, it's a more painful process because we kind of forget. You might go to jiu-jitsu for a handful of weeks or months and be like, I can't even believe this. I just got beat by everybody again. Like, I'm not learning anything. Or you might go out on a run and you might be like, I felt like I was going to throw up today. My arms are tired. My legs are tired. I feel like I haven't even practiced at all. That's the way it goes when you're new, when you're in the beginning of something. These little issues, they'll all kind of rear their ugly head, and you have to keep learning and maneuvering a way around them over a period of time. But if you can kind of just zoom out and you can try to calm yourself down, you could say, I would like to do this for a long time. You know, I want to do this maybe the rest of my life, or I want to do this well into my 50s or 60s or something. And once you start to kind of talk to yourself that way, you're like, okay, well then what's the rush? What am I, who am I trying to impress? Who am I trying to beat, you know? And I think, you know, a lot of the stuff that Jordan Peterson says about, you know, comparing yourself to yourself and not comparing yourself to other people. Other people are at different spots in their life. And that's why it's so important to do your best and not really mess with that game too much. And that it's a dangerous game to play because you can also start to think about, well, I wonder how long he's been doing it for. I wonder how it's an ugly game. It's an ugly battle to get yourself into. You have to continually hone in and focus back in on yourself. What are your skills? What are you good at? Where are you strong? And where do you stink? You know, where do you kind of stink? Where is there room for improvement? Where can you expand? And the people that take the time and have the energy to work on those little nuanced things that we do all the time with these little grippers and stuff that we have here, working on our feet, all these different things. These are going to be the things that are like, we believe in them. That's why we do them. It's this small stuff over a long period of time, and the protein shakes and the amino acids protein. Yeah. All this stuff. It over time, it makes a difference. When you start lifting when you're 15 or 16, and you start to train and train and train, and you start to finally notice, you're like, oh my God, I think I got a little something going on. I'm gonna throw on tank top today. And you throw something on, someone's like, dude, you're getting jacked. You're like, you're goddamn right I am. It's all that protein, brother.
Beef. Power Project family, it is grilling season. Now, I really don't know much about grilling since I use an air fryer at home. My boy Andrew does, though. So, since it's grilling season, it's time to get your hands on some Piedmontese beef. We love those glizzies. We love that beef. Andrew, tell them more about it.
Yeah, guys. So, like you mentioned, they do have those glizzies.
Hey, yo!
For those that don't know, that's just a hot dog, but it's all beef hot dog, and it's amazing. My favorite thing to smoke is their prime rib, though. And, you know, it's grilling season, so dust off those grills, dust off those smokers, and head over to cpbeef.com, and at checkout, enter promo code POWER to save 25% off your order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
Get your glizzy gobbler on. I think it's funny though how he just kept, and you know, you hear people in bodybuilding say this, but I think he's a good example of it. He kept comparing everything that he was doing back to bodybuilding. He's like, in bodybuilding, I learned how to do this. And then he brought that to politics and acting. It's just this consistent repetition and consistent learning to get better over time, right? The politics thing I think was really fucking wild though, because this man had no experience as a politician. He was just really good with people. But the thing that I thought was really cool about the political thing was he was talking about how, and other people came on the documentary. And I know that people that come onto a documentary are obviously doing their best to make the person who's the title of the documentary look as good as possible. But there was a lot of themes of people saying, like, since he didn't have a background, he was able to think very differently from a lot of other politicians. And he was able to bring other people from other sides together for specific goals that he had in the governorship. So because he didn't have a background in the baggage of being a politician, he ended up being someone that brought a totally different flavor and a totally different mindset to the way that he worked, which in essence helped him be well, some people think he was a shitty governor, but many people think he was a decent governor. And that's like, you know, I think that's one thing that's kind of cool about you, because like when you talked about nutrition, you don't come from the nutrition science side of things. You come a lot from the application side of things. And I think that's why a lot of people are able to get results from the things that we talk about here, because you just tell people what they need to try to do, what they need to try to do on a daily basis, rather than making it complicated.
Right. And I think Arnold, you know, if you know what it takes to be successful, then I think like that can end up making a great leader in just about anything. You know, like I'll follow him. Sure. You know, almost blindly, you know, sometimes when yeah, it can be dangerous because a person can be so polarizing, right? Where you're like, yeah, I'll follow. And then you're like, wait, what are they doing? Maybe I shouldn't be following them. But in Arnold's case, you know, he always seemed to be like a step ahead, right? He was always a step ahead in bodybuilding somehow. It might have been his preparation. It might have been the fact that he had a vision. It seemed like he had a clear vision for himself. Seems like he had some good habits, like he wrote stuff down. It seemed like he liked to have fun, but he also seemed like he knew when to call it in terms of like partying and like getting a little, getting himself handsy. Yeah, and he's gotten himself into trouble many times. But in his younger days, I think he, you know, maybe either it was kept from other people or he was able to keep himself under control enough to make himself a multiple-time, you know, Mr. Olympia champion, which then was something that, you know, followed him around the rest of his life. But if you have that dedication to your food and you have that dedication to come in that kind of shape every single year and to be the best in the world at something, I don't really know why. I don't know who would be more qualified than just somebody else that, you know, did something similar. Like it could be you know, in our politics today, I mean, it would be nice to see more people with like athletic backgrounds. It'd be nice to see people with more, because we're not gonna end up with like a Ulysses S. Grant who's, you know, we're not gonna end up with like a badass general. We're not gonna end up with some of these same people that we had many, many years ago. So the only thing we got left, I mean, I don't know, maybe we will. Maybe we'll end up with a Jocko Willink as president or something like that. But the only thing we got left is, you know, for people to be competitive in other things, be competitive in sports. And I think Arnold's pedigree for what he did with his career, I think it kind of opened a door. He was probably kind of always political too, in the sense that, you know, he was able to figure out how to team up with Joe Weider. He was able to figure out how to negotiate deals. He was already doing really well business wise, so he knew how to make negotiations. Again, he was always a step ahead. He made a little bit of money, and as soon as he made a little bit of money, he reinvested in some like real estate and some apartments or something like that. And
apparently, he was already a millionaire when he was a bodybuilder because he'd got into like so much real estate before he got into acting.
Right,
it's crazy.
Yeah, Arnold's timing is unbelievable too. I don't even know how some of that worked out. So I don't remember the exact circumstances here in California, but like I believe Gray Davis was the governor, and then they like booted his ass out, and that's when Arnold kind of swooped in. Arnold most likely would have never became governor otherwise.
That's true.
he had this short time period where people couldn't fuck with his background too much.
Yeah.
Because he gave that a little bit more momentum, and there would have been a lot more smoke that came his way probably.
Yeah.
And he was able to like not sneak in. He got in legitimately, but you know, you give it another year or two where people can dig up your past, and I'm sure they would have found all kinds of shit.
Well, the baby was found out after his governorship.
Yeah, right.
He's already 14 years old at the time. That shit's fun.
Yeah, that is such a crazy thing.
Yeah, so did the movie go over some of the
Yeah.
controversial stuff? Yeah, it did.
It did. It talked about
He talked about it
the
straight
main
up.
thing.
Yeah.
He was open about it. He said he regretted what he put his family through. But just interesting that it just stayed under wraps for so long before it came out in like 2011.
Imagine his wife. His wife must have heard rumblings of stuff here and there. She's probably like, nah, you know. And then she's probably like, yeah, probably, you know.
Do you remember this? Okay, do you remember? Okay, in the last episode, he said that after his governorship, him and his wife went to couples counseling once a week, and she asked him, "Is that baby yours?" Because that kid was like 14, and if you look up that Joseph Baena dude, he looks like Arnold. So I think your question was,
Arnold
is
has a
that
very
your
distinct look, and probably some powerful ass genetics too.
Yeah, that boy looks like him, but Mexican. Like that's really it. And that's how like he told her. But hey, it's a tough thing.
She's probably denying those rumors for years, and then that happened.
Yeah.
She was probably like, fuck.
Fucking looks exactly like him.
It looks exactly like him. But the thing is, man, like you gotta imagine, like, I mean, when you're someone with that much power, holy shit, yeah, right? It's like, is that your kid? Nope, that ain't mine.
I don't know what are you talking about.
Yeah, it kind of like, it has cheeks. That's it.
Yeah.
But to credit to him, like he was one of the most powerful dudes in the United States, most popular dudes in the United States. Like it takes an extreme amount of self-control not to make any mistakes, right? So not saying that it was right, but it's like we're human, right? And he admitted that was that was a rough, bad thing he put his family through. But it is what it is.
He was The Rock before The Rock.
He was.
I mean, he was like just insanely popular. His movies were box office sensations and hits for, years and years and years. I do think it is amazing, like again, his timing, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are jealous of him who probably think he's like the most aggressive opportunist of all time because he married into the Kennedy family and he became a politician,
I'm a monster, bro.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he seemed very like crafty with his situations. And then we talked before the podcast, there's some controversy over his 1980 Mr. Olympia win. The other athletes were really pissed, but who knows if that's just pure jealousy? I mean, how could people not be jealous of Arnold? And how could people were probably pissed that he even came back? You'd be like, oh, great. Like they're going to hand him the fucking title. And then whether they handed it to him or not, or whether he earned it, doesn't make any difference. He would still be like, I'd still be grumpy as fuck.
Dude, Arnold's a great guy, but he was Machiavellian as fuck. Like actually, I want to ask you this. In your like athletic career, when you were powerlifting, obviously there was a lot of time when you were training with people that you might be competing against, or you're in the back room with people you're competing against. But with the amount of tricks this guy put in his opponent's brain, like, in Pumping Iron when he was Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, messing with Lou Ferrigno.
That shit made me so sad for Lou. Like, Lou is just this little kid. Like, not little kid. He's 23 years old, but
He's
like
6'5"
Arnold,
and 270.
6'5", 270. But Arnold's like 29, and you saw them at the table with his dad and Lou, and you just felt so bad for Lou because Arnold was just like poking and poking and poking and making him feel so like he was playing mind games. And, as a competitor, you're not supposed to be totally nice to your competition, but I'm just like, I wouldn't want to do that. Did you ever fuck with your competitor?
But real quick, that scene though, when he's like, "Oh, I forgot what the time frame was," but he was just like, "Oh yeah, maybe if you had another, 3-4 weeks, you might be able to compete." But then I would have 3 to 4 weeks, and I would just be better. It's like, oh, dude.
Yeah, he go, I get bigger too, so what the hell?
Yeah, he's like, I get bigger, so what's the difference?
He's like, Louis, you look nervous. And then Louis like, you're making me nervous. Or he's trying to he's trying to mess with him.
Man.
Lou's trying to be stone faced, and it's just not. You could tell he's totally broken.
And then that other thing we were talking about where he told this guy who's like, I want to make my posing better. He's like, yeah, you should scream with every pose. That's like the new thing that they're doing.
Yeah, and you like when you go up higher, you and then you come down lower, right? Like a lower pitch, right?
And that guy ended up doing that because Arnold told him to do it.
Kicked off stage.
Yeah, it's like, damn, dude.
They brought the hook in there and just fucking yanked that guy out of there.
Like Arnold, like he obviously he was a great mind. He loved to learn, but he was also like he was a tactician. That I think that's the big thing. He had tactics, and not just to do the shit, but also to potentially mess with the people around him so that he could come up even higher. And we can't say that that's a bad thing.
No.
You know, in war, that's great. And some people look at competition as war. So
it must have been fun for him, you know, because he was like, he's probably going to beat everybody anyway. So he may as well like kind of mess with them at the same time.
Make them uncomfortable.
I like doing that a little bit here and there. I'd mess with some people.
No way, jackass. You used to mess with people.
I'd mess with some people here and there. It was fun. I remember at one competition in Concord, California. We were all in the same flight, and we were all going to squat 1,000 pounds. It was me, Andy Zavala, and AJ Roberts. And at the time, even though I went to some big powerlifting meets, I didn't really know of any I didn't see a lot of powerlifting meets where people squatted that kind of weight, you know, multiple turns in a row, you know. And we're in the warm-up room, and Andy Zavala, he is squatting, and I think he did like 900 in a warm-up room or something. And I was like, that's a heavy warm-up. And he's like, what? I was like, what, aren't you, like, isn't your opener like 940 or something? He goes, yeah, what did you do? And I just lied. I was like, I did like 700. I was like, I want to save it for the platform. He goes, well, how did that look? I was like, it looked kind of slow. So he goes to unrack his first attempt. He's like shaking all over the place. He was able to come back, and he did well. And he did squat 1,000 pounds that day. But I did end up beating him, which was nice. And then afterwards, he's like, hey man, he's like, you really fuck with my head. And I kind of felt bad, but I was like, I started laughing. He started laughing. He didn't really care.
Lesson: don't think everything everyone says is in your best interest.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, that's funny. But yo, dude,
that's great.
Hey, be tactical, dude. You know, I mean,
you got to have some fun with it.
Kobe played a fucking ton of mind games. Jordan
absolutely did.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. Like, it's like, okay, I think bodybuilding is different than basketball. It's very different from basketball. But when you look at guys who are apparently seen as the greatest or some of the greatest, they do seem to have an edge. GSP seems to be a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't seem that he was really, you know.
GSP seems to be like a one of one.
I'm trying to think of someone else like him, and you're right.
Yeah, he's kind of like off on his own thing. He didn't even really like to fight. He was he claims he was always scared. And it seemed like just something that he like learned to do and got really good at, and he enjoyed like learning more and more of it, and then he just ended up being the guy, you know. But a lot of those guys are more like a Chuck Liddell, you know. They're more like guys that gotten into fights growing up, and they're, you know, violent, and then they happen to be good at this because he learned the skill set of like wrestling and ended up becoming multiple-time UFC champion. But yeah, GSP was like a really just one of a kind, and Chuck Liddell, like that kind of person, is going to rely a lot on intimidation. Yeah. Or Tyson's going to rely a lot. And Tyson's not going to play a lot of games really, but he didn't really have to.
When you see his knockouts, like, it's just he doesn't have to. That's his intimidation. One punch from me, and you're literally out.
And you're done.
Damn. You got to mention the Kennedys. Did you guys see this clip?
What's going on? I saw Chris post something about
Robert Kennedy Jr.
What's going on with this Robert Kennedy shit? Like, what's What did he do?
He's I think in his 70s, looking pretty jacked.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And I don't know for sure if he's running for president or I don't
Yeah, I believe he's running for president.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on Joe Rogan. He's one of the guys that like let a lot of the cat out of the bag about the COVID stuff, and he wrote a book called The Real Anthony Fauci, which just completely just rips apart Anthony Fauci about how he handled HIV and vaccines and all his different stuff. Yeah.
Damn.
Interesting.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
no, I
don't know
just-
much about him, but
Yeah, I've just been seeing
That's wild.
this clip being shared a lot, and you just mentioned the Kennedys, and so I'm like, oh, hey, I remember this.
Yeah, I didn't know he was jacked. It changes
Yeah.
everything.
That's what I'm saying, and you're like explaining how like on the previous episode you put health in front of everything else,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like
It's got to move to the front of the line.
It's
at
got
some
to
point.
move. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Power Project family, quality sleep can make everything with your health and fitness easier, which is why we've partnered with Hostage Tape. Now, we've been talking about mouth tape for years and nasal breathing for years. But one of the problems that we've had with tape is we all like to rock facial hair, and a lot of the mouth tapes we would use would fall off of our face at night. Hostage Tape doesn't fall off your face if you have a beard or if you're not a man and you don't. I'm joking. I'm joking. You don't need a beard, right? But either way, Hostage Tape makes sense. It'll stick to your face when you're asleep. You'll have better quality sleep because you're breathing through your nose all night long. It is a no-brainer. And if you head to hostagetape.com/powerproject, you'll be able to get the Power Project annual deal, which is a year's supply of Hostage Tape for 55 cents a day. You'll be saving $150 on the typical yearly deal. You're going to get 2 free tins and a blindfold. It's a no-brainer. So head there right now and get yourself some Hostage Tape. Links in the description along with the podcast show notes. Shut your fucking mouth when you sleep. Enjoy the show.
With in terms of like Arnold, you think about there's other people who kind of have mimicked his career. I guess The Rock, would be somebody that's definitely in that category because the
Absolutely.
only one to like do it to that kind of level. But I would say The Rock still has a ways to go movie wise to catch up to Arnold because Arnold's movies were awesome.
They were really good.
They were fucking awesome. Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Twins, Kindergarten Cop.
Dude, I was just gonna say that.
Dude, Kindergarten Cop is dope.
What's the one where he's like in a movie and it's a movie about a movie, like something action hero,
Oh yeah, Last Action
last
Hero.
action hero.
Last Action Hero. That one actually ended up being a flop.
That one's dumb, but I just remember
Yeah.
watching it as a kid being
Yeah.
so pumped.
What's that movie with
He
that?
has True Lies, which is like another good
True
movie.
Lies was great.
That was one with Jodie, what's her name, right? Look it up real quick. Let's look it up.
yeah. Damn, man, I don't know.
Because there's
a female,
there's a movie with this, like, he had this, like, this
was-
lead, and I remember seeing that movie as a kid, and I was just like, oh, short hair.
She looks
Like, I didn't even give it. She looked so good.
Yeah, it's not Jodie Foster though. It's
No,
it's-
why the fuck can I pull it up? I'll find it.
that's a really good scene because his
You know the
own-
scene I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Of
well,
course.
That's the only reason why any of us watched it.
Yeah. Well, she got in great shape for that. And that's his
Good shape for that.
that's his own wife that's like trying to seduce him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh,
Dude, that
damn. In that
scene-
movie, bro. I was a kid seeing that, and I was just like, oh, that was so good.
Crushed it.
Let's find that scene,
Oh,
please.
please.
Bring it back. Bring me back to my childhood.
Jamie Lee,
Already
can we have you
in-
on the show? I mean, where are you at?
Oh, God.
Oh, that's a shitty version. I need some high quality. Oh, dude, yeah.
I don't remember seeing it. I just remember it was so fucking...
No, it aged well.
It aged well?
Yeah,
Okay.
especially when I just watched this. I know all.
This is great.
Yep. I remember it very well.
Yeah.
This is one of those scenes where you're looking around like, fuck, if somebody walks in right now, this is going to be awkward.
Yeah. I need to put a pillow over my
But when
parts here.
she tears this off and then she shows some
I think this
cleavage,
is-
it's
What year did this movie come out? Because I think this is when this made me like... This is when I was like, I like
long
fit
time.
girls.
1994.
Yeah. When I saw this as a kid, I was like, I like fit women.
I remember,
Yeah, right.
Arnold, when he was talking about Terminator 2,
Uh-huh.
and he was talking about the woman in Terminator 2 being like leaner than him. He was like, what the hell? He's like, you're not allowed to be leaner than me. As she wets her hair down.
Yeah.
There we go.
We really are
Splash a
gross.
little water on the boobs. Yeah. Man, I don't think I even ever realized that her body was that good.
Me neither.
I mean,
Not
I-
until
I-
this movie.
I do remember this scene, obviously. Everybody does. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Literally everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Get
Who
to the
else?
good part of it.
I have to find a different clip because it
All right,
stops right
we
there.
can stop there. We've had enough.
What is
No, we haven't.
fuck? What is
Wait, what the fuck?
Is there
Jennifer
another
Aniston?
in?
Damn it! I lost the name in
I
my
can't
head
even
of the.
put this on YouTube because watch this.
Mm.
Like, well, bam.
Oh yeah,
dude. Ah, shit.
we're such dudes, bro. I'm sorry.
Ah, dude, that. Oh man, that might have changed.
Jennifer
it.
Aniston doing like a striptease.
We are
is
the
it like,
Millers.
We are the Millers. That killed me, and that wasn't when I was a little kid. That was
I'm
like
just watching this.
But
10
okay,
years ago.
but now outside of like being, like, oh, she's so hot, but she was super fit in this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like extremely fit. Like she had a line in her abs. You could tell she worked out, which is like, it's cool because she's not just skinny.
Yeah, I
Right.
watched
You
it
know,
over
she
and
could tell
over
she
just
could
for the
lift.
physique and
I'm trying to be I'm trying to be
Like, wow, those
better.
calf shoulders.
I'm trying to be better.
all right, that's going on YouTube because that looks great.
I'm just trying to be better.
You're a little kid. You're like, I don't know
trying.
what's going on with this, but I like that.
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 94. Damn.
That's wild.
I don't remember what we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
other than that.
He was talking about Jennifer Aniston, but
Oh, yeah, We Are the Millers. That was a good one, too.
Mm-hmm.
That
We
whole
don't need to
movie's
just keep
good.
showing porn on the on the show, but
As we're always promoting to not.
yeah.
hypocrites. Let us know what you guys thought. Like, let us like what you learned from the doc. I think my biggest takeaway from that doc was mainly just for him, kind of like the staying busy and being useful thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think like no matter what, a theme that I want to be able to have, no matter what I'm doing, is just that I can be useful to those around me, right? Because if for me personally, if I can't be useful to those around me, it's just like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? It's like that's a big thing, and I think that's, if you can just keep that in mind, that's huge. And then being, I don't know, just wanting to do new things. I think all of us here are constantly trying to like learn new shit, do new shit, and that's something that can just keep you moving forward no matter what.
And what's wrong with like setting some big goals and like wanting to be extraordinary at something,
Mm-hmm.
or just way better at whatever it is you're working on now than you are currently.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's extraordinary of itself, even if it doesn't land you as being named extraordinary for what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what it is you're doing is really competitive or really hard. But if you're exponentially way further ahead than when you fucking started, that is really something.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, again, I really, really want to watch this documentary, but because I know, again, the real life story, but like going against the grain and not doing what everyone else is doing, like Mark with running, Arnold with literally everything he's done, like, don't get stuck because you're like, oh, I'm not the right body type, or I'm not strong enough to go to the gym, whatever it may be. I'm not flexible enough to go to jiu-jitsu. Like, maybe you'll find your own way of it, like for me personally, like it was very uncomfortable to start filming my like training sessions because no one else in the gym did it. But now it's like, dude, I use that every day almost to go back and reference things because that's how I have to learn. Everybody was like, oh, just take notes or, do something after. I'm like, dude, by the time the roll is done, it's already gone from my memory, so like I had to figure out my way to do it.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool thing that I've learned from looking at Arnold's, path and everything.
You're gonna dig the doc, dude.
I can't
hope
wait.
You can find. I think really, you guys
Go watch
can watch
it.
it together.
Yeah. I can't wait for
very
him to
PG.
like watch cool stuff. Like it's just his attention span's getting so much worse now too because freaking YouTube. But like like when my wife works out, he'll just like watch the video and he'll just copy it. So I'm like, all right, put on jiu-jitsu, which is, he took my back the other day, so that wasn't very cool. It was the greatest, scariest moment ever.
He learns quick.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of, heard Arnold's speech that he did years ago?
Like at a graduation?
Yeah, he lists off like, I don't know, he's got like these 7 rules or something like that. Have you ever heard that before?
I think I may have, but it sounds familiar.
It's
but I don't
incredible.
remember it, so.
It's absolutely incredible. Maybe I don't know if
6
you can
rules
attach
of
it.
success.
Yeah. Might be. I don't know if you can play a little bit of it, but it's sick.
Yeah.
Talks about breaking the rules. He's like, not the law, but the rules. Break the rules.
I did hear it. Okay. It'd be good to hear it
This
again.
one's like 4.5 minutes. I don't know what do you guys want to do.
Nah,
We'll put it.
Yeah.
I'll link it down below.
just attach it or something. But it's It's incredible. I love listening to stuff like that. I find it really motivational. You get a perspective from a different person. You hear someone like Arnold say that. You hear someone like Kobe say. You hear someone like Jordan. You hear Steve Jobs. You hear person after person kind of saying like things that are connecting together that are very similar, but in different ways from different experiences and different backgrounds. I always think it's like really empowering.
Gold's Venice is the gym that Arnold Schwarzenegger trained at in his youth, and he still trains there. So does this guy, Mike O'Hearn. We did a podcast with him, and he's also a bodybuilder that a lot of you probably know. Many of you like, many of you dislike, but at the end of the day, there's a lot to learn from him, so check this episode out. It was awesome. We ate duck eggs. We also took our shirts off and ate duck eggs.